Welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond. I'm your host, Ivotres Littles, and today I'm joined by the writer, director, producer, and star of this ambitious, fun Halloween horror slasher, Creeping Death. Let's welcome Matt Sampere.
It's good to be here. I think you forgot a couple things at the end of that too. I think I also had to, I was the driver. I edited it. I also composed some of it.
Oh, yeah. He did everything.
A good amount of it.
Pretty much. It was like the Nutty Professor of films.
I've never seen that movie, but
We're done.
That's Eddie Murphy, right? Where
yes.
He plays himself. Okay, no, I would say Norbit. I've seen Norbit. He does that too, right? In that movie?
Yes. Oh, we're starting off terrible, right? Oh my goodness.
Sure, I'll take the Nutty Professor of horror, yeah. No, Norbit okay. I saw.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. Ugh.
You didn't see Norbit? Oh, Norbit.
No. I saw part of it and I was done. I was like, I ain't gonna look at this anymore. I didn't like it.
I haven't. It's been a while since I've seen it. I saw when it like first came out when I was like a kid. So I've forgotten it since then, but I remember kind of being blown away by the fact that he was playing so many different characters.
Oh, then you need to see Nutty Professor because he did like the whole family at the table, and yeah, you need to see it.
So that's all. I'll have to do that for the next movie. Then I don't need to hire any other actors.
Yes, yeah. See, so we're for this one, Creeping Death. We're gonna talk. We're gonna have like an in-depth discussion about the movie because there's some great things about this movie. And I think we should point those out because they matter. Good things matter. So we have here the star in the film played Tim. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He, like I said, he did everything.
Even when I was, finding out about this lore stuff, I didn't know how to pronounce it, so I was making up my own pronunciations for it, and so I put like my own pronunciations in the film. And then I finally talked to somebody that said that the proper pronunciation was Ishi, and that's what we used for the film.
Ishi.
Ishi.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody out there that's going to tell me he's saying it wrong or the accent isn't right or something like that. But as far as I'm aware, it's Ishi.
Okay. Well, forget what they said. We're talking right here. We can call it whatever it is. Anyway, so it's about while trying to have a peaceful Halloween with his sick mother, Tim is thrust in a night of terror when a prank breaks a sacred tradition and unleash a deadly deity known as Ishi. There's a lot of Halloween stories out there. Why did you want to talk about this one? What was so important to tell this story?
The thing for me was I just wanted to have like a cool concept of what could happen on Halloween. I always wanted to make a Halloween themed movie because I love the holiday so much, and I didn't want it to be just a guy in a mask running around as a serial killer. Obviously, Halloween you're not going to beat anything like that, and there's a lot of other great Halloween films, and then there's a lot of great Halloween films that again still have just a guy in a mask. And so I was like, how can we do something different? How can we, in a sense, like, do what John Carpenter was doing back then in the late 70s, early 80s, when originally it was supposed to be, the Halloween franchise was supposed to be more of an anthology of that could happen on Halloween night. And then obviously we saw the success of Michael Myers and then how Halloween 3 did. And then it just stuck with Michael Myers. And so I always wanted to know what would it look like if he kept doing that. And so I started kind of looking back at like the lore of Halloween. Halloween 3 touched upon that a little bit. And so I started researching like the different traditions of Halloween, trick-or-treating being the main one. And so, upon doing some research, I came across how this tradition originally kind of originated from the lore of the Ishi, in which these spirits would go door to door every Halloween in exchange for food and clothing. And if they were left something, then they would bless the villagers' homes and their harvest or in their crops so that they would have a bountiful harvest the following year. And I thought that was like a really cool idea. And, there were a lot of different descriptions of what these things looked like. Some said they were spirits. Others said that they were like elves or fairies. and that like they lived in mounds. And so there was all sorts of information. There was a lot of different information out there, but there also wasn't a ton for me to research. So that's what made it a little bit difficult for me. And so I kind of took a little of what was there and I said, you know what, like, let's just kind of take this and make it our own in a way. And so I took that and then I was like, okay, what if like, because no one's heard of these things, no one believed in them anymore? What if they're really out there? No one believed in them. How would these creatures or spirits survive? Right. And so then the idea of like, okay, how do we make this a horror movie? What if, you know, these people stop leaving things out on Halloween because they didn't believe in them. And then in return, they just took the people from their homes and survived off of them. And so that's where the idea kind of came into play. I had been playing with that idea for, 7 years ago when I started this. I made a really bad script based on that idea. I was just trying to figure out how to write a script, how dialogue is written, how you write characters, structure. I think the first version of the script was like 50 pages. And I thought that was good enough. Now I've realized, that's not always going to add up to an hour and a half movie. And again, there wasn't really any substance there besides the lore. And the movie actually didn't take place on Halloween, the original script. It took place 3 days before. And so why did I change what? To make it take place on Halloween? Oh, because I realized that my original script had no idea what it was doing. But then when I was telling people out in LA, once I moved here, like all my friends that I met, I was like, I got this idea about this lore. Here's the monster we've already designed. Everyone's like, that is such a, striking looking monster. We love the idea. Like, you need to make a movie about this because, if you don't, someone else will. And there hasn't been a horror movie based on this lore before. And that's when I kind of went back to the drawing board and said, okay, how do we make an actual Halloween based movie, with this? And then I was like, once we have the foundation for the lore and all of that, how can we, when we have this established kind of set of rules in a way, how can we put in, some characters and have some other subplots going on to make it just feel like it's moving even more and not just a simple setting up of the lore?
Okay. I want to say something about this film. I love the opening where we see the guy sitting there in the chair and two kids come up and, he's an asshole. He's taking a beer and gets slapped in the face. Then he's like completely all messed up. But then on the ground, when his head is about to get stomped, and then it transitioned to the next scene. I really do love the way you do that. Like it's not jarring where it's like, what the hell? I mean, why did that happen? But it had a smoothness to it, to move things along. And I've said this to you many times. I think that should be like your signature move in your films, of the transitioning. Was that something that was planned to do like that, or it just happened to cut and it just worked well?
There were some that were planned. That one was planned, although it was planned differently because we actually shot an entirely different opening scene for the movie. And it was like the last thing that we shot during principal photography, and the opening scene, it didn't work. The match cut that we originally, it was like the whole opening scene of the film was kind of like the opening of Halloween, where it's all a oneer, from the monster's point of view, and the monster was going to go through the house and like take out a guy with a beer bottle, like so. But then a mom and her kid were going to come in, and the monster was going to go after them too. And then we were going to do, we had this motion where the mom like sticks her head out this window, and the monster comes up behind her and like slams and crushes her head. And that was going to be what cut to the head. And the action just didn't work as a match cut. Like, I really wanted that moment, and I wasn't a fan of how the opening scene turned out, so I just completely scrapped it. And then, but in the script there was always a match cut like that. And then when the original version like that we went to London with, it didn't open with the scene like that. The whole movie opened with a pumpkin getting stomped, and then we're in the pumpkin patch. Like, that was it. We didn't have anything else. And so after testing it in London and realizing we needed a stronger opening, I was like, okay, I need to get this match cut down. This is 100% the way we need to go. And because I had it in my head when I wrote it, I'm like, I'm getting this right. If we're shooting this scene again, I'm getting it right. But then like in the edit, there's a moment where you'll see Nate's character when we first get introduced to him. He says, he's like, "Oh, we got to do this one last thing," and then he swipes his sheet right at the camera, and then it cuts to me walking past the frame, coming back in the mom's room. That was a happy accident that just happened in post. So whenever I'm trying to cut scenes together, I'm just always looking at what's a good edit point, what's going to keep things moving visually. And so some were planned and some were just dumb happy accidents. Always like really careful and trying to like find specific ways of moving into a next scene.
We meet the 5 friends. I didn't like any of them. Seemed like real life characters, like their attitudes, they're so different from each other. Any relation to real life characters in your life?
I think there's definitely some of these characters have a little bit of people I've encountered in my life in there. Not every single character in that film is 100% based on somebody, but there's certain moments in the film where characters may say or do certain things where it's like maybe something that I've come in contact with, or maybe somebody that I used to hang out with would say or do. So yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit of like, we draw from our experiences and stuff like that and what inspires us. And so I think a lot of like some of the people I grew up being friends with or maybe not being friends with definitely influenced some of the writing choices in a lot of these characters.
Or I had another theory. Based on your character, because you in the movie you seem very
tired.
Probably because you were doing every damn thing. There was a scene where you were standing in the living room. They stole the bag off the porch, and you guys were all in there. And I was thinking, and you were kind of like almost in the middle, the way that it was shot, and then you have everyone else kind of around you, Danielle standing next to you and blah, blah, blah. I kind of felt like each one of those people were like a part or represent your personality of like an entity of outside yourself. Because one would be like, we need to do this, or we need to do that, and we need to do this and that. And
I love that you started this segment by saying you didn't like any of those characters, and then they all remind you of what could be parts of my personality. I love this. Keep going.
Well, oops. Okay, so so I'm really saying how I really feel about you. So yeah, it just felt like they were, I think I mentioned this before, like Herman's head, like different personalities, and they would influence how they would react to certain things. And you would see that, especially with, I believe it's Nate, when he was like, you need to go and do X, Y, and Z because as you guys read that book, you have to, give up the loved one. And your mom was, in the film, was dying of brain cancer. And so it just felt like she was on her way out. And then, when it came up about someone had to pass away in order for this to clear itself out, the first thing I thought was like his mom. Take mom out too. I would have thought about it. Does she need to be here? She's on her way. I probably would have been Nate. Yeah, that's pretty sad. But when he said that, it kind of you kind of thought about it, and there was some reaction to it, and then you were like, no, this is not going to work. So that's why I brought that up, because it felt like each one of them was influencing you, and I just thought it was each part of each personality, but it may have been unintentional when you were writing it.
Yeah, that was unintentional. I mean, I think, in past friendships, relationships, whatever, there were always people in my life that would try and tell me what I should be doing or how I should be doing things, but in telling me it was for the best interest of myself and everybody else, when really it was just for them and something they wanted to do. And then there were the other friends that, that I had that would be around it and hear what they're saying and maybe would agree with me, maybe would side with me, but wouldn't speak up for me because they were afraid to speak up to someone else. And that's kind of what I wanted to show in this film is like, you know what? maybe these characters agree with both of our sides, but they're too afraid to say anything, and no one wants to be a leader here and stand up for themselves or do what's right or say what's right, and maybe they just want to take the easy way out, because at the end of the day, people just kind of sometimes tend to just care for themselves, and that's kind of what I want to show with these characters. And is there going to be a character that's going to stand up and do the right thing? Does he have the strength to stand up and do the right thing, even though it means making a much harder, more difficult decision? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, there's definitely, going back to what you were saying before, the more we're talking about, I think I've been so far removed from the writing process of it now that I'm now trying to remember why I wrote things a certain way. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely people and friends that I've had in my life that definitely influenced a lot of these decisions that these characters make. When people say we don't like these characters because they did that, I'm like, why do you think I need new friends?
The conversation that you had with your mom in the film, when she was telling you need to, be out there and do things, the stuff that you like and not worry about me and stuff like that. So based on your reaction and how your character is in the film, I was getting the impression that it was based on the overall experience of real life, of you coming from New York to here to pursue a career, and probably had someone tell you, this, it could be a mistake. You need to probably not do this and stuff like that. So I feel like who you are in the film, having that conversation with the actress, playing your mom, and who you are in real life, I feel like there was some compromise ground of what you were trying to pull away and put out there. I mean, do you feel like there's some truth to that, of the obstacles that you had to face? It's not just this horror movie, but it feels like a real life path that you were reflecting your real life in making this film.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this film is that as much as we've been pushing it as a supernatural slasher, which it is, it's also a coming of age kind of thing of finding yourself, standing up for yourself, and kind of following your dreams in a way. And for me, moving out to LA, moving away from my family and friends and everything, that was the scariest thing I could do. And I knew I wanted to do it, but I was really afraid to do it. And I'm lucky that I did have, a lot of close family and friends that were like, if you don't do this now, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. You need to get out there and do that. And you know what? You can always come back home. And, and while I was trying to, work through school and start finding myself, I was touring in bands a lot and, traveling up and down the East Coast and really just trying to go out there and see what was going to work, what was going to kind of get me out of here. And while that was happening, I was really close with my grandparents. And, while the more I was away, the more I saw their health declining. And I think that really made it hard for me to wonder, should I be going away and doing this? Should I be trying, do I go after that or do I stay here? And it just became a really difficult decision for me. Trying to think of how to word it. I had a train of thought and I just lost it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of truth to that, and figuring out for myself, what do I want to do? Is it worth staying here, being with my family and wondering what if, or do I go out and give something a shot? And I think I'm definitely glad thus far, I'm glad I've taken those steps, and thankful to have the support back home that, encouraged me to do it, because I don't think I would have if I didn't have that support.
Goes back to what I was saying about each of these personalities reflect probably who Tim was, because he wants to say something but can never get it out. That's Danielle. He wants to be tough and be forward, but that's PJ. And obviously he probably doesn't wash his hands, and that's Alex. Hey, I'm just saying. I'm stating the facts here. And then we have Nate, who I think he wants to be tough. And then we have, I don't know, what was the other one? Tramer. He kind of was, yeah. I think he was kind of like he was like the buff one, the big one.
Yeah.
I think that the body wise is probably what Tim wanted.
Maybe. When I was writing this, like I said, I had just moved. I'd been in LA, I think, a year, but there was still a lot of stuff that I was kind of like dealing with within that move. And I think this was kind of my way of like coping with that. Instead of, within the first year of leaving, I, getting to LA, I was out here for a couple months and then COVID hit. And I literally just moved away from all my family and friends. And now I'm locked, away from doing anything. I can't do anything. Right. And so that was like really difficult. And then there were things that I was just still kind of dealing with in that move. And I didn't know. And these things just started bothering me more and more because I couldn't go out and talk to people. I couldn't see people. And so to just be kind of alone at home with your thoughts, I was like, I need to do something with this. And I was like, all right, let's put it on the paper. Or sorry, I didn't write it on paper. Let's put it on a page. Let's put it on the screen. So that, writing for me has always been a really good way of coping with just whatever you're going with, you got going on.
I wanted to talk about some fun details that maybe have been overlooked or maybe not. Your dad's shorts, the shorts joke. That his shorts are scarier than the decoration.
That is very much my own father. That is my dad.
Okay. You said you were wearing blue shorts right now. Is them the same type of shorts you're wearing?
No, mine go past mine go close to my knees. My dad's shorts are barely shorts. I'll say that.
You got Daisy Dukes on?
My dad, that's technically what he wears. Yeah. My dad's a triathlete, and so he wears his triathlete outfit, and
he just let it all hang out, huh?
Sometimes it's more of him than growing up with a triathlete father was very interesting, I'll say that. So wow. I had to get a little jab in the film when I could. That one was for him, and he went to, he came out to London to see the premiere, and I don't think he really saw the movie before at that point, and he knew immediately I was like that when we did that, and I'm like, oh, I got you. You just wait.
Well, those shorts were scary.
Yeah, I know they were. Exactly. Yeah.
One thing about the whole movie is this serious tone that it has to it.
Yeah, I definitely wanted there to be a lot of serious moments because I felt like we needed some of those to make when I feel like if there wasn't anything serious happening, then when it comes time for people to get killed, it felt like there's no risk. Like, ooh, are all these people going to die? Are they going to get away? Or yes, we want to see this person die. You want to root for that when you're watching these movies. I don't like watching a slasher movie when it's like, oh, there's a character. Oh, they're dead now. Like, I want to know, like, who's next? How are they going to get it? And keep me wondering, like, when. But with this movie, I kind of looked at it. Maybe this was the wrong approach, but the thing that I was really striving for is like, I looked at like the Avengers movies, right? You go into the Avengers and it's like, there's a lot of action sequences. There's a lot of serious moments. There's some really heartbreaking stuff and there's comedy. It's got all of that in one movie. And I love that. And it has these different moments. It's not just one thing. And I think that's what keeps movies moving and feeling more of a roller coaster ride. And so that's kind of what I tried to do with this. I'm like, you know what? Like, we can hopefully make people feel things. We can have different emotions in there and different tones, and hopefully they work together. So it was an experiment. And I think, some people caught it. Some people love that. And I think other people weren't expecting that and didn't, and don't appreciate that. And so, which is fine. I knew this movie wasn't going to be for everybody, but I wanted to make something that I wanted to see in a slasher film. And I wanted to have those suspenseful moments. I wanted there to be some comedic moments. All good horror movies should have comedic moments. I think the best do. Walking Dead, the writing in The Walking Dead is something that I've always loved. I grew up watching that show. And so like a lot of my inspiration, like the way they like write the characters and like, just the drama between all of that while the horror is going on, that, I wanted to try and put something like that into this.
The first encounter of the creature in the archway.
Like once you see a monster in a movie, there's no suspense anymore. You know what it looks like. You know what I mean? Although like when you watch something like The Nun, whenever she pops up on screen, it's terrifying. But, when you're seeing a monster in a mask or whatever, it's like once you see what the monster looks like, I felt like the suspense and the mystery is gone. And you look at Jaws, right? Jaws is one of my favorite movies. It's like Jaws worked because the shark didn't work. And he had to be creative with how they were showing it. Had they shown the shark at the beginning, that still would have been badass, I'm sure. But it keeps the mystery alive, if that makes sense. And so with this, I'm like, I don't want to just show the monster because somebody doesn't know what the monster looks like the whole time. How can we reveal, have it there, but not show it? And, and that was kind of difficult because I really had to think of, when I was writing the script, I didn't really know how much of the monster we were going to show in some of these scenes until it came down to like shot listing and all. And I'm like, what are we going to do here? How much of it should I show here? I always knew I wanted that archway shot. That shot I always wanted to have be the reveal. But the scene before that, when he's all blurry, I'm like, how do we have this first kill and have the monster there, the full monster there, without showing it, right? And then even shooting the opening scene. We shot the opening scene last. That was the last thing we shot. I'm like, oh my God, we just shot the whole movie. Now we need an opening kill. But we don't show the monster. I can't show the monster at the beginning of the movie and then go back to not showing it and then showing it again. So I'm like, how can I shoot it without doing it? And like with that opening scene, I looked at the short film that we did. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but in the short film that we did, I took the best moments from the short film and made that the opening scene.
The car scene was pretty cool, where you guys are sitting in the car and the creature tried to grab them. And how did that come about?
Honestly, that's one of my favorite scenes. And I've seen some comments about that scene online saying, "Oh, they all of a sudden went found footage with it." I'm like, okay, like, no, we didn't. It's not found footage. Like, yes, we kind of jump around. We had to get creative with it. It was artsy, but it worked. It was never intended to be that way in the script. It was a much bigger scene, actually. Like, the car was gonna start. Like, I hate when like characters get into cars and they don't start, and I'm like, oh my God. So the car was gonna start. And originally, and it just didn't work out the way I wanted to. But originally, what was gonna happen was, so Isaac is, his body's on top of the car. And his body was supposed to be completely skinned, as if he was like, getting like field dressed like he was a deer or something like that. And so he's gonna be like completely skinned, and his face flap was gonna be looking in the window. It was gonna be like smushed across the window. And I thought, how cool would that be if they get in the car and their friend's face is just stuck to the windshield, looking back at them with blood pouring down it, and they start the car and the wipers go and the face is just going back and forth. And then we were going to do this cool shot where we're just zooming in on it. And then all of a sudden we see the monster behind like in front of the car, right behind the squished face. And so there was going to be like kind of a jump scare there. And then the car started, and then they were going to like ram the monster. And that's when we were going to start to really realize some of its supernatural powers, and the car was going to move. So we were going to have a much bigger scene. How do we make this scene feel intense, effective, and scary without just phoning it in and like trying to create something that wasn't going to work? Because we really kind of had to come up with that on the spot. And I looked at my AD. I'm like, hey, I got 30 shots, I think, that we're going to need. How much time do we have? She's like, you got time for like 6. I'm like, yeah, okay. So my DP's like, we can do it in 1. We made it look like it was all one long shot, and and we're cutting, there's so much action happening that we were able to hide a lot of cuts in that. And really make it feel like the audience is right there in the car with us as this was happening. And if you ever hear the movie with the surround sound, there's so much detail work in the surround with the, with the spirit going around the car and the body rolling all over. Oh my God, we had so much fun doing the sound.
That was all one shot?
So it was technically 6 separate shots, but we made it look like one. So what happened is, like the first shot is the camera guy getting in the car, and then PJ slides in to the car. We fill the frame, And then we kind of go from that to now we're playing like it's her POV looking around. So that's a second shot. And then the monster ducks down in front of the car as we see. And then we look left. He gets out, Tramer gets out, hits him with the bat. Then monster goes across the roof and the body falls to the side. So when we went across the roof, we were able to cut again. We see the monster fall. And then we whip back to everybody getting out of the car. We did a cut as soon as we were coming out of the door. And we see the monster on the ground. Guy gets burned, gets up, runs away. And then they turn around. And then we did a whip back to where the monster was. That's a new shot of the monster coming up. He throws the bone. We whip back. We put the bone in the guy's leg. That was a whole new shot. So yeah, there was like 5 or 6 separate shots.
Mind you, some of those he's in him. So you're acting in them, in some of them. So geez, I'm tired, and I wasn't even there. That sounds.
Oh yeah. And I'd look at my DP and I'd be like, "We got it, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Is this gonna work?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll see." And so literally like that, we had no idea if we got the scene or not. I had no idea what he was doing. I was like, I don't want to say discouraged, but because I couldn't see it in my head, I was nervous about how it was going to turn out. I was unsure of what we were getting and if it was going to work. And that night, once we wrapped, John and we sat down and just put the shots together, and I saw what we were going for, and I'm like, okay, this is much cooler than I would have shot it. So this worked out. And it was just one of those cool moments where it's because of the time and pressure, you just have to get creative. And I honestly, it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, regardless of what people think. I fucking love it.
I mean, I think people should know that he did a lot for this film. He was everywhere, not just being an actor, but he did what he had to do. But I can't imagine relying on someone to make sure they get those visuals, while you had to mentally play a character, but also making sure everything was going well at the same time. That has to be the most anxiety driven moment throughout the entire film, especially in the action scenes. Oh my God, is he getting everything? But you still have to be like Tim. We need to know those feelings.
Do not recommend, especially to someone doing it for the first time, playing a lead. Acting in general. A lead, acting is one thing, but playing the lead is just stupid while you're directing your first movie. Every day there's so many new fires to put out, plus problems that you have to figure out that are coming up next week. They're on your mind now while there's a million other things going on. And you're dealing with a lot of different personalities, right? And and my job was to keep everybody as happy as I could, while trying to just stay alive. My stomach was in knots from the second I woke up to the second I went to bed every day, because of the stress. I thought I was going to get sick. I really thought I was going to have a heart attack or something. My body was, I was just so tight. And there was a scene, and it's not even a cool shot. There's one shot in the film, and now there's some stunts in this movie, and we had Alan Maxon, our creature actor. He was doing some stunt coordinating for us to make sure everybody was safe. There are shots where I'm getting thrown on the ground, and I did it countless times, and I was fine. I got up, no problem, whatever. There's tons of shots where I'm sliding across the floor, or I'm falling next to a knife, no problem. We did one shot that wasn't even supposed to be a stunt shot. There was no stunt involved. It's a shot where we're running down this hill, and we're running away from the monster after we're escaping the barn, and the hill was really wet, and my shoes didn't have a lot of traction, and we're coming down the hill, and my foot slips, and I was going kind of fast, so my whole body, if the hill's it was a steep hill, so the hill's like this, I'm going down this way, but I slipped out, and I kind of flew this way. So as I'm going out this way, there's a little bit more of a drop. Not even a cool shot. and I slipped and I tried to stop myself, and my body was so tight because of all the stress that my shoulder dislocated, popped right out, and I rolled down the hill. And I had never felt, it didn't hurt at first. But I didn't even look. I just knew it was out of the socket because I could feel it like up here. And it, like, my shoulder was like in front of me and something was in front of me. I just knew it didn't feel right. And I'm on my back and I'm just sitting here thinking like, I should probably go to the hospital right now. But then the pressure of, oh, I have to finish the day. Like, you know, we have people's time and money on the line. You know, we had so many people that were willing to donate to this project. And I'm like, I can't stop this. We have to keep going. And so I couldn't move my arm. It was just bleh. And so I grabbed my arm and I went, and it popped back into the socket and I was able to move it again. I'm like, great, we got the shot. Let's move on. And that's the kind of stuff you have to do, you know? And, you know, when you're both the actor and the director, there's just a lot of sacrifices you have to make that no one really thinks about. You know, people think that they know. I mean, that we had so many people helping out on this that I'm so grateful for, but there's just so much stuff behind the scenes that, like, not everyone even knows has to happen in order to make this thing.
There's some really cool kills.
Yeah, we never showed the kill.
The pumpkin head rolling down. Yeah.
We had that. We had the beer bottle through the mouth, guy getting his arm ripped off, and then that arm being used to stab his own girlfriend later on.
That's messed up.
I don't know if you caught that. That's the guy that gets his arm ripped off. That's his arm that is being stabbed through his girlfriend by the monster.
Oh, I thought it was the thing, the creature thing.
So the creature
arm. I thought it was his arm that went through.
No, well, so the creature uses the boyfriend's arm, stabs it through her, pulls it out, drops it, and then he pulls her guts out with his own arm.
Oh, okay. Either way, someone got messed up. Oh, the other one that got split.
And then the other guy gets split through the, right down the center.
Right down the groin.
And you stomp right in the face.
Ass splitting. Yes.
That was probably my favorite scene. I think that's my favorite death scene in the movie.
Oh, the ass splitting. Okay.
The ass splitting.
Splitting ass. That's
that's the guy that portrayed that character is one of my best friends, and in every project I do with him, I try to find more unique, humiliating ways to kill him.
Well, I can't. What could be more humiliating than having your ass split in front of thousands of people?
The script called for a lot more brutal kills. In some of them, even if we had the budget to do some of it practically, there was still a lot of it that would have had to have been done in post. And that's where the budget really would have hurt us. We already had a lot in VFX and stuff to help like clean up a lot of the gore, make the monster look scarier and stuff like that. So with what we had planned, we would have needed, a much larger budget to pull some of it off. But God, if we could have shot the movie the way the script was actually written with some of these kills, we would definitely have some stuff that would have competed with, Terrifier, I think.
Terrifier is a whole new level of just nasty. Oof.
I love like what those guys are doing is so inspiring. Like I love, without those guys, I don't know if I would have attempted to make a low budget movie. I think I would have just kept trying to like shop a script around and hope like a studio picks it up or we'd get a bigger budget privately. I don't know. When I saw what these guys were doing, they just took what they had, and went and made a really effective film series now. I love it. That's what got me excited. I'm like, if these guys can do it, and plus I think they shot at Terrifier New York, they're New York guys, I'm pretty sure. So I'm like, oh my God, if these guys are doing it and they're only a couple hours away, like, they're not in California doing it, right? It's like, okay, so maybe we can do it in our small town too. And we did it. We'll see how it turns out. But without those guys, I don't think I would have tried to attempt to do this.
This movie has some uniqueness because of, one, how much work was put into it. Two, that you had to wear so many hats and still finish it. Some people just can't do it, especially with, you know, the budget you had, the help of people, and no studio or nothing, and trying to figure out, you have your own personal life and everything, but you still manage to get it done. And I have to, you know, give you where, you know, your flowers for that, because I've seen and heard so many stories, and regardless of how people feel about this movie, rather if it's good or bad to them, not every movie is for everyone. That's why there's hundreds and thousands of them in many different subgenres. It has some really good elements, some educational things, some understanding, the love and the passion and the respect, and you deserve all of that regardless. So I definitely wanted to tell you, that's why I went a different route on how we would talk about this, because we need to know you. We need to know the feelings and the thought behind it. And there's a lot there. And congratulations on getting it on Screenbox, your first feature film. Some people ain't even done that. So, but it took years, it took time, it took tears, blood, and everything else. Maybe a few unborn and virgins. I don't know, but you did it. but you did it, and I have to tell you, congratulations. So,
thank you.
I just have to give you my hand clap.
I never, you know, have it like it's such a relief to finally have it out there, but and then it's just crazy to think like we did it. The fact that it got finished, because there's just so many things that got thrown at it that made me think it would be impossible to finish. And what I want to, you know, over the last 7 years, it was, you know, I did walk away from it before we shot the version that is now out, you know, and I attempted this 2 times before. You know, when it was like taking place Split Rock, I walked away from that. I didn't like it. It wasn't the quality I wanted to do. And even now I know I can do better, you know, but you learn every time you try something. But even 3 years ago when we started shooting, I think 2 days from now will be like 3 years since we actually shot our first day. And there's so many moments where I just wanted to delete everything and just walk away, because it was just taking such a toll, not just, you know, just on my life, you know, with relationships, financially, mentally, physically, you know, especially being in post, you know, you go from constantly moving on set. And I think I dropped like 30-40 pounds while we were shooting the movie, because I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't drinking anything. I was just working. And if you look at like a still of me from day one to the final day, there's a big difference. And then you're in post-production where you're stuck behind a desk all day just editing. And then I'm just sitting there eating, drinking coffee to stay awake. And then you put on 30-40 pounds, and it's like, you know, it really takes a toll. Especially when you know, when you're doing a small budget feature, and, you know, when there's not too many people around you to assist with that.
One last thing that I wanted to address is that listening to you talk about from day one to now, how is your mental health? Because even though it's done, it's done, it's not over. This is a Halloween movie. This will back up over and over to many different fields out there for people to see, whether they watch it or not. But it is going to keep going until after October. So the things that is going on now, like reviews or thoughts, they're coming back again. So how is your feelings now that it's not over, but you're here now, have to get whatever you're going to get thrown at you?
I think the hardest part is, I shot it 3 years ago. You know, the choices I made 3 years ago, I wouldn't have made now. There's things I would have done differently. So it's weird promoting a project now that's from so long ago, because I've shot other stuff since then that using the skills that I learned on Creeping Death that look phenomenal, that I'm happy with, that people love. and those things turned out good because of what I learned on that. And so now promoting something from so long ago, I was a completely different person then than I am now. It's hard to like, I look at the film and I'm like, I should have done this different. I should have done that different. Oh, I hate this. I'll never be able to live with what I did here. But it happened. I can't fix it now. It's too late. Unless, we can George Lucas this thing down the road. We'll see. But it's hard. There's luckily we've had a lot of really positive responses. As I kind of said earlier, there's been a lot of great feedback, and then there's people that don't like it. And I knew going into making this that not everyone was going to love it. I knew it wasn't going to be a movie for everybody. It's a low budget horror movie. If you like that stuff, then hopefully you enjoy this. And so it does, it's hard not to want to look at a review when something pops up. Every day I see something new. I'm getting tagged in something. I'll see somebody posting this long video talking about the movie, and I'm like, I want to know, did they like it? And then sometimes you watch these things and some of these people's responses are just so uneducated and so like what's the word, they're not, it's so unconstructive that I'm like, why am I listening to this? Clearly you wanted to hate this as soon as you stepped into it. There's some I won't get into it, but there's some comments where they're bitching about something so little that was actually intentionally supposed to be funny, and they took it like so seriously and were so upset. I'll say it. There's somebody that was like, why did the guy in the opening scene hand out candy corn with his bare hand? Nobody hands out candy corn on Halloween. I'm like, that's the joke. Like, we're rooting for this guy to get killed because this guy's kind of an idiot, because no one really does. Look, people hand out candy corn. I don't know anyone handing out their bare hands, but it's like, that's supposed to be, to me, it's like, I wanted that to be a funny moment. Like, what the hell? And this guy is, this character is so like serious about what he's doing. He thinks he's doing, these kids some good, handing them out candy. They should be grateful for this. It's like, no, I don't want candy corn Halloween. Some people do, not with someone's bare hand, but like, and then someone's like, oh, I knew if they couldn't get this right, then this movie was trash. And I'm just like, so you see things like that, and it's just like, so you're tearing us down because of something like this. And so it was,
that's not like a person that couldn't find anything wrong, but went to search for something wrong just so he can complain about the movie.
But right. And so there's stuff like that. And so it does definitely take a toll on your mental health. And it's been really hard. Last week, the first week we dropped, it was, again, there's the critic reviews have been great. All of them have been positive or constructive, and that's all I can hope for. And so, you just really have to get a thick skin. And luckily, like, there's, I have a lot of, people that support me, and, you included, that are there to listen and keep me wanting to look at this stuff. And so, yeah, it's hard because I've never had something out on display this publicly before, so that's a different change. But as an artist, it's like, you need to do that, and so that's kind of the approach I'm starting to take now. Like, if you don't like it, I'm sorry that you didn't. Thank you for checking it out. But this is a movie I want to see. It's a movie I wanted to make, and I hope that people find something in there that enjoy it, because I know there's plenty of people. I've seen messages popping up from people all over the world saying that this movie has really resonated with them and they really love it and they want to put this on every Halloween. And those are the people I made it for.
Well, I hope when I tag you, you look at what I have to say.
I do.
Oh, okay. Okay.
As long as it's positive.
Have I said anything negative? No.
Well, not yet.
I've seen the movie twice.
Twice?
Yes.
Well, you gotta watch it in October now. It's going to be a whole different movie next month.
That's why I said it's one of those movies that's just gonna keep popping up every year.
I was showing people Terrifier all the time, and no one knew. Now everybody knows who Art the Clown is, and that's so awesome. No one knew who Sam and Trick or Treat were, for a while, and I was always telling people about it. And so to see that, like, years later, it just kept kind of popping up now and then, and now he's like this classic horror icon. Like, you know, that is so inspiring, and it's about the longevity. And so I'm hoping that with a movie like this, that maybe we can reach, even if we can reach like a 10th of the status of those characters, like that to me would be a, you know.
And you will. Believe it. Don't hope, believe. Because there are things I had done that I thought it would never happen, and they happen. They may not happen again, but I was the only person to have 2 panels at Midsummer Scream. And
you're right. You probably won't have 2 next year, because you're probably going to have like 5, knowing you.
And yeah.
At the same time, in each convention hall, you're going to be running around the bowl.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see how things happen for next year.
It'll happen.
But yeah, it'll happen. And then maybe I'll ask you again.
Wow. Okay. Maybe I'll have to check my schedule.
Well, you're always busy. You probably be like, hell no. And I'm not going to use 3 cameras.
No. I'll bring I'll set up a GoPro.
A GoPro?
Hey, the GoPro cameras are great.
No.
Every year they got like...
We'll talk later, because now you pissed me off. What is something that you want to tell the audience about this movie that has not been told? That you feel about the whole entire experience?
All I would say is, this movie's, it's a labor of love for the holiday. And if you love Halloween, you just want a fun little movie to cuddle up on the couch and like have some cocoa or whatever, and just have a fun Halloween experience every year. Like, I hope that this is the movie for you. I hope it's a movie that people will want to add to their Halloween watch list, and hopefully can find some enjoyment in it. I think there's, whether we like it or not, some of these people, whoever watches it, this movie may be able to relate, or maybe knows people that are like some of these characters, and maybe they want to watch some of these characters go and see what happens to them. And I just hope that it helps entertain people and it escapes some of the real world problems that we're dealing with now. That's my goal. So if you check it out and you enjoy it, then I did my job.
Thank you so much for coming on here. It's so nice to support my friends. Yes, he's my friend. And no, I'm not being biased about it. I did enjoy the movie. It is a movie you can watch. There's some movies you can't watch. This one you can watch and have fun with it. And
thank you.
You did a good job on that. So make sure you watch Creeping Death. It is on Screenbox and somewhere else. Isn't it somewhere else?
We're on Screenbox. It's available on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, apparently Roku, Fandango.
Yeah.
If you type in Creeping Death movie, you'll find it. It's all
it's everywhere. Just how he was doing his film, he was everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
So it's on YouTube. You can get it on YouTube through their rental service. So yeah.
It's everywhere. Enjoy it. So thank you so much. And if you like videos like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And I will have information down below the website for Creeping Death. So thank you so much, Matt, for joining me on this conversation.
Thank you for having me. Happy Halloween.